Hey guys, welcome back to Make Way with the Morleys. In this video we're going to talk about the choices of ferry crossings to France.
So we're currently in France, so we thought, as we had a discussion coming here and had more than a little discussion, we always have a discussion. By discussion I mean a bit of a falling out is the polite way of saying it. That's right, isn't it? We always fall out when we're getting on a ferry.
Yeah, we do.
We do. So we thought we'd record some of our views and our opinions as to getting the ferry crossing over to France. Now this won't appeal to everybody, and if you're doing Dover to Calais or the tunnel, it's maybe not going to appeal, but so this generally would be a crossing from either Portsmouth or Plymouth over to Roscoff in our case that we did, or to Saint Malo or to Caen. So in terms of the type of ferry you're going to get, it's either going to be a day crossing or a night crossing. Now I'll let Kate talk about the night crossings because that's I'll talk about the night crossings because that's my preference when coming over to France, and I'll let Kate talk about the pros and cons of day crossings. So me going first and talking about the pros and cons for a night crossing. I've got a few notes here, so if I'm looking down, that's the reason why. So a massive pro for a night crossing is the arrival time that you get into France. Generally speaking, that will be somewhere between 6 and 8 o'clock in the morning. And means you've got a full day ahead to drive wherever you might need to drive in France. Obviously for a young family like we've got, we don't want to be in the car all day long, but it would mean you could get somewhere fairly well down the west coast within 4 hours and still arrive by lunchtime if you were to get there even at 8 o'clock in the morning. So that's a major plus for me. There's no early start needed, which potentially you might need if you were doing a day crossing. So you can have a cabin overnight, you can get a shower, you can be full and ready for the next day, you've got a bed to sleep in. If you're a club voyage member like we are, you get a free breakfast if you book an overnight crossing with a cabin for a family of up to 4 people, so roughly saving you about 20 quid. Now on to some of the cons you may have with a night crossing. It's a little more expensive. If you do obviously have a cabin, you'll have to pay for that. It feels constant, there's no moving about with the kids, so you may have had to do a sort of 3 or 4 hour drive to get to your port, then you're on board all night, and then you get off the other side and you're travelling again. So the kids have done nothing, they've not had any time to run about. So if you don't book a cabin and you do end up having reclining chairs, then they're good for sleep. We did that the first year, didn't we? We had reclining chairs, it was just rubbish. You can't get any sleep, you're better off having a cabin, but again that obviously puts the cost up on your ferry. Most ferries will usually leave probably about 10-11 o'clock coming over to France, so there's a potential for it to disrupt little ones with a bit of an interrupted night's sleep, so that's obviously a bit of a negative. Now all of these sort of pros and cons that we weigh up, because we've got, roughly speaking, between 3 to 5 hour drive depending on whether we're going to Portsmouth or whether we're going to Plymouth. Roughly it's 200 miles from home to Plymouth, it's 160 to Portsmouth. If you ever try and travel down the southwest from our neck of the woods on the M5 during the summer, it's a nightmare, and you get to Bristol and it's stop start. So that's a bit of a negative for me to going from Plymouth.
Right, so as we've said, in previous years we have gone overnight. Last year we didn't get a lot of sleep. Livy screamed in the cabin, which we were also very conscious of the people in the cabin next door. You probably didn't get much sleep either because of the screaming child. And I felt very much like we'd sat in the car, we'd either had to get to the ferry port quite early to make sure we didn't miss the ferry, if there'd been any traffic on the motorway, any of that. Obviously if you live locally to the ferry port you wouldn't have that issue, but so we'd had to leave home early. So we had the stress of packing up well, we didn't have a caravan then, actually we had a tent, so we had the stress of packing everything up to make sure we left on time to get to the ferry port, which would be there quite early because we'd allowed time for any incidents. We then arrived at the ferry port, then you have to obviously sit in your car in the queues, which is why we always have arguments, because they just drive me mad, because you're always first there and the last on the boat, which does mean you're going to be first off, but it's just frustrating sitting there. So you sit in the ferry queues for hours, then you get on the ferry, then you go straight to your cabin, then you go to sleep if you're lucky enough not to have a child screaming with you. So you don't sleep really. The crossing we did was Portsmouth to Caen, was it, last year, and that crossing was it's quite short, isn't it? I think it leaves about 11 o'clock. I think we couldn't get in the cabin as soon as we got on either.
No.
So it's probably 11:30 before we're in the cabin, and then they wake you up with some music at about 5:30. So it's not like a massive amount of sleep anyway, if you do get it. Then, so we've gone from car to queue to car to ferry to sleep, get out the ferry, and then we drove for
4 hours.
4 hours. So we're in the, for me, with children, I think that's fine if you're adults doing it, but I think with children, that's a long time that you're stationary really. You're not moving about, you don't get to walk around the boat particularly, probably briefly in the morning before you get up. So that's why this year I wanted to try a day crossing, which for me means breaks up the journey. I mean, we this year stayed in a campsite near Plymouth, and that was brilliant because although you felt that put extra time on our journey, but for me it meant we were in no rush to get to the campsite. We could get there whatever time we wanted. We didn't have that stress then for catching the ferry the next day because we were only half an hour away from it, so that wasn't as stressful. Then on the boat, it was a really good ferry actually, a really good crossing, in that they had a magic show for the kids. We went to the cinema and watched like one of the latest films that's out. Then we had lunch on there, and then we went upstairs and were out on the deck on the helipad. Kids were running about, loving being blown around by the wind, and it kind of was a nice start to the holiday really. I felt like they loved the magic show, the girls particularly. So for me, that was a break in the holiday. And even Plymouth, unfortunately the weather wasn't very nice when we were there, but we went for a nice meal, and I think if the weather had been nice it would have been really lovely. So for me it was better to break the journey up having small children, and then it was only then once we were off the boat, so the next day we got up, we were on the half an hour drive to the ferry port. We obviously had to wait for a bit to get on, then we were wandering about, then we got off and we had a 3-hour drive here.
Yeah, it was about 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
it should have been less, but we got diverted because there was a bike race going on, so we had to turn around. That was interesting. You may see some of that in a video to come. Yeah. But we were a little bit delayed, but
yeah. So the break in the journey, obviously, as we've said, the negative is that you do arrive later. We would have been here much earlier in the day had we had an overnight crossing.
Well, we got here for what, 5:30, there, 5:15. So we were on the pitch for what, about 5:30, 5:45.
Yeah.
By the time we set, not too bad with the caravan. My sister, who did a night crossing, they were here for what, 10:30, 11.
11 it was, yeah.
Yeah. So they were here much earlier. So I guess
they didn't have a caravan though either.
No, they got 10. That's one of the negatives to getting a day crossing, is that if it doesn't get in till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you've got a bit of a drive, then longer than we've got, and it's not motorway, is it? Really down this kind of way. It's A road, so it just limits where you can get to. And if you're going further, then it means another stop, which means you've got sort of 2 stops before you get to your final destination. But I guess that's just the way it is, isn't it, really? Yeah. So we've covered everything there, haven't we? So
yeah, obviously it's cheaper as well because we didn't have to pay for a cabin.
Yeah.
And if you had wanted a cabin, like if you want to go and driver wants to go and have a sleep, because I have to say we stayed in Plymouth overnight, we could have got up probably about 2-3 in the morning and driven to Plymouth for us.
We'd have pushed that though.
Yeah, but we could have had a cabin then, which is only 30 quid to have a cabin with a window, or 20 if you're happy with an inside cabin while you're on there. So then your driver could go and have a sleep if they wanted to.
Yeah, I mean we'll see the proof in the pudding of that journey, because when we go back on Friday, we've got crossing in the afternoon, so we get on, I think it leaves about 5, doesn't it?
4 to 5, yeah. And
we get back about 11 o'clock at night, and then we've got to drive all the way home, so we might not be home till 2-3 o'clock in the morning, so that'll be quite a long one. Hopefully the kids are asleep, but maybe you'll see some of that as well in a later video. I think that clears everything up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So from our neck of the woods to get down to a port, it's between 3 to 5 hours. Okay, it's not going to be the same for everybody, and it's also not going to be the same for you if you go from Hull to Zeebrugge, or if you live in the southeast and you go do the tunnel crossings. That's about it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Finn, come and join us. So Finn's here as well, he's just been for a shower. Come and join us.
It's not not a live thing.
It's
Come
not
on,
live.
close it down.
Don't worry. So, what's your preference? What do you like best? So, do you prefer a day crossing like we did when we came here, or do you prefer a night crossing? If Livy didn't squeal, which she might not do next time we go, would you rather sleep on a boat or would you rather be awake on the boat? Because you ever got a drink. What would you rather do? What would you rather do?
It would be the inside road, but how do you know that Livy's not going to scream? I'm just going. I don't know.
Look, there's no right or wrong answer. It doesn't matter. It's just saying what do you like best. Would you like to sleep on the boat,
Would you like to be
or
able
would
to
you
move
like
about
to be
on
able
the
to
boat?
move about and see more of when we leave port? You can see where you've come from, and then you can see where you're going into.
See.
You'd rather day crossing.
Yeah.
Okay, well there we go. So it's
We're doing it next year.
no, we'll get night crossing next year.
Oh,
So hopefully that's been something of use to you. If you've got any comments, hit us up with those. Give us your thoughts on what you might think is best. I think we've all just discussed what we think's best. I think night crossing's best. Kate thinks day crossing's best. Let us know what you think.
who's me?
What do you think's best, Finn?
Day crossing.
There we go. Anyway, that's going to be it for now. Thanks very much for watching. Next week, hopefully, we'll have a video about our trip to France and some of the things we got up to. So if you like this video, hit the thumbs up. Hit subscribe if you've not already done so, and you're into all things caravanning, outdoors, and family fun. And we'll see you soon for another video. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.